Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending upon your time zone. Welcome back to Extra Life. My name is Nick Cantu, and this is the show where we pull video games from the abyss of purgatory and give them moments in the sun. Now, what is video game purgatory, you may ask? Well, it's a metaphysical concept I perceive when video games aren't being played. Both the good and the bad, they patiently wait to be loved or loathed depending on the title. And pertaining to today's entry, perception generally associated is that it's one of the worst and downright abysmal fighters to ever come out of the era. And welcome to the abyss of video game purgatory. Now, it may look like a house to some people, but trust me, it's the abyss of video game purgatory. And really, when you look at it, okay, perception plays a large portion in any individual's life. Now, is it always a good thing to believe in the perceptions of other individuals or challenge those to our own personal beliefs? Here's an example of one gone wrong. That's a panda. That's a Green Ranger. And you're a giraffe. So obviously initial perception does not always mean accurate information. And before I forget, I'm going to probably put these on because even in the abyss of video game purgatory, people can still manage to find you. Now, can a video game hated and loathed to the point of having an online community with the sole purpose of destroying every copy in existence have anything redeeming it? Or really, should it just be completely destroyed and forgotten to the point that even the abyss of video game purgatory has no recollection of it? Well, seeing as how basketball season is finally in full swing, and I've been on a bit of a kung fu movie binge, let's give Shaq-Fu An Extra Life. Shaq-Fu has been a universally panned and hexed video game since its initial release on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo on October 28, 1994. But I don't understand why. With so many other mediocre and subpar fighters to come out of the era, why was this game placed so high on the pedestal as to give legions of gamers a Frankenstein mob mentality to obliterate every copy in existence? I think I may be able to answer that, and don't worry, I will come back to the actual art of the box a little bit later on. But for now, let's set aside our early to mid-90s nostalgia, be it good or bad, and actually see what all the hype is regarding Shaq-Fu. Can't play a video game with sunglasses on. Delphine Software International was the team that created Shaq-Fu, and from what I understand, the same development team was the people who made the game Flashback for the Sega Genesis. Flashback's a game with some pretty strange controls and some pretty strange physics, and it was a game I honestly kind of contemplated doing for a while on here, mostly on the grounds that really I'm just not a huge fan of it. However, throughout the course of me actually doing research on Shaq-Fu, I noticed that this game actually does carry a pretty significant following, so chances are I won't actually be spotlighting it on this show anytime soon. However, I did spot some major similarities between this and Shaq-Fu's gameplay, which I'll discuss a little later on. No, seriously, it says it right on the box cover. Developed by Delphine International, and it was created by the team of Flashback. And yeah, it's kind of dark in the abyss. I'm probably going to get back up to my normal spot. And in terms of gameplay mode, Shaq-Fu is pretty standard fare. Dual mode, which is your basic arcade mode / 1 to 2 player bouts. Story mode, which is, well, the grand tale of Shaq attempting to save a small magic-wielding boy from the nefarious mummy set. It's a Shaquille O'Neal title. You're just going to have to roll with it. Tournament, similar to, say, like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat's tournament modes. And finally, options with, well, options. So in preparing to actually talk about Shaq-Fu, I went through and looked at a bunch of text reviews and video reviews just to see what most people had to say about it. And aside from like aesthetics and presentation, you know, give her like the roster or level design, the main things that I heard trumpeted across the internet as the biggest complaints with Shaq-Fu was the complete asinine story as well as how hard the gameplay was. And given the game's reputation, it may be kind of hard to find someone to play two-player with you. Hey, I was wondering, do you want to play Shaq-Fu with me? Hey, what's up? Hey, do you want to play Shaq-Fu with me? So I reckon we should probably just jump into story mode. I mean, the two major grievances are already there, and it'll be easier to pinpoint everything that way. Shaquille O'Neal's odyssey into a strange, fantastic world begins with him casually walking through Chinatown on the morning of a charity basketball game before he accidentally stumbles upon a small dojo. I suppose they had to get their product placement in there somewhere. And I don't know, it might just be me, but it doesn't really look like Shaq was just accidentally stumbling upon this dojo. I think when he walked in, he wasn't really expecting to find an old man there. Just speculation, obviously. I love how when he's asking the old man to go to the game, he pretty much states it's not going to be a good game because it's for charity. And that's the lesson, kids. If you're doing it for a lot of money, go all out. Don't stop. But if it's for charity, you can take a nap. It's not really that big of a deal. You know, the more I read this, the more it feels like a creepypasta to me. Oh no, it's worse. It's not a creepypasta. It's a fanfic. Or should I say, a Shaq-fic? Oh, man. Sorry. And that's our setup. So although I was kind of just joking about it being a fanfic, why did Shaq kind of decide to blindly trust this creepy old man and step into the closet in hopes of finding a little boy? So here's how story mode works. You traverse this little map going from area to area, squaring off with one of the other fighters one by one. And believe it or not, this is actually one of the things that makes Shaq-Fu stand out from the other fighters of the era. With other fighters of the era, and hell, even some of the games in today's times, you never really get an actual story with the game. Well, sure, you get little endings, but nothing that really follow the progression of, like, an actual story. And I know most would argue that they don't really care about the stories in fighting games, and that's understandable, but you can't argue that, at the very least, this game was trying something new in the genre. Except for maybe Brutal Paws of Fury, which is pretty much forgotten nowadays anyway. So blah 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 blah, it had a story mode. Is it even worth playing? Well, given the game's reputation, I was a little hesitant to play it, but to be completely honest with you, I thought it was freaking hilarious. Alright, so the plot is ridiculously simple, yeah, but every time you get to a new fighter, you can't help but wait to see what ridiculous line they'll say next, or what pun they're gonna throw your way. Is it comedy gold? Hell no. But is it entertaining? Oh yeah. However, I can't understand why people get burnt out pretty quick by it. You shouldn't have too much trouble with your first couple of fights, but you'll hit a major roadblock when you get to the gate and have to face the grandfather of the little boy you're trying to save. This dude has a major spike in difficulty, and you'll quickly run out of continues, causing you to start the story mode over, and sit through all the dialogue again and again. Let's get this straight. Shaq-Fu is an extremely hard game. The enemies move quick, the physics are very, very strange, and hit detection's a little off. Does that mean that it's completely unplayable? Not even close. The golden rule in Shaq-Fu is perception. I would just take an uneducated guess and say that a large population of the people who played this took one look at the cover, played one round, and declared it a complete and total disaster. Just speculation, obviously. When in reality, no two fighters are alike. You just have to learn the rules and how it's played, which for any fighter can be very difficult. First off, the AI is fast and unrelenting. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's cheap, but I would compare it more to like Mortal Kombat 3's AI, where one more mistake deals great punishment to the player. And secondly, you really have to get used to the physics in this game. It's completely obvious the team that created Flashback worked on this game, given at times it handles like a side-scrolling adventure game. And yes, when you jump forward, it does feel like you're jumping on the moon. Yet this isn't a deal breaker. You can still perform punches and kicks mid-air, but you'll need to think things through in order to land your attacks, or once again the AI will punish you. And lastly, you really need to learn when it's appropriate to pull off special moves. This isn't like Street Fighter where if you're a noob in the game you can spam Hadoukens and DPs all day long to get by. It requires more logical thinking. Never thought I'd be using the word logical to describe Shaq-Fu. With your complete knowledge of the Fu of Shaq and well thought out movements and timing, pulling off a special move can turn the tides in battle, allowing you to punish your AI opponent. Through trial and error, defeats and triumphs, you'll eventually make it to set and your final battle. There's a joke in there somewhere about Shaq facing a washed out has-been mummy as his ultimate foe. Couldn't tell you what it was though. Set is a really hard freaking opponent, and if this is your first time facing him, he will undoubtedly kick the out of you, bringing you to this screen. And finally, I can explain why perception plays a large part in any medium pertaining to Shaquille O'Neal. The National Basketball Association, or NBA, made Shaq out to be a juggernaut and titan amongst basketball players. And in his quote-unquote music career, he was pegged to be this, "I'm awesome, I'm a badass dude who can do anything. Give me dap, I'm Shaq." And anyone who even slightly grew up in the 90s will remember that Shaquille O'Neal, or as his name actually means, the Little Warrior, he was everywhere, and I can easily see why people got burnt out by him, given what his perception was painted on by his managers as well as the NBA. Now, the thing that, and this is just my opinion, but I think the general population, as well as Shaq's managers, got his entire personality wrong from the get-go. See, Shaq isn't this I'm a better than you type person. If you really look at his personality, he's a self-aware jokester. And really, really think about that. How many times have you seen a commercial with Shaq, or even one of the films that he starred in, and some really goofy, seemingly out-of-nowhere gag happens? You roll your eyes, yeah, and say it's dumb, but why? One semi-recent example I can think of was when Ice Cube decided to do Are We There Yet? Prior to this, he starred in the critically acclaimed Boys in the Hood and was a well-established gangsta rapper. People just didn't know how to feel, and it was understandably internally confusing for everybody. And the same thing definitely goes for Shaq. When we have an image of what a person should be, either the one we've painted for ourselves or by the entertainment industry, it's hard to wash that feeling away. And can anybody honestly say with a straight face that Shaq was being completely serious when he took this picture? Because as I said before, the actual story in this game is pretty freaking hilarious. But I can honestly say, with the perception that Shaq was given at that point, I can see why this game got such a negative following. Especially when you just take one look at this cover and go, oh my god, it's freaking Shaq. But we still have to be set. We still have to finish this journey and have it come to a close. So how does it end? Keep plucking away and eventually both you and Shaq will partake in what I've dubbed the happy dance. And considering there was never a sequel to this, your threats are as empty as a positive review as Shaq-Fu said. So all's well that ends well. The internet makes an internal joke about Shaq coming out of the closet with a small child, and he makes it to the charity game. But uh-oh, Shaq has a surprise waiting for him. So in the end, where do I stand on the whole Shaq-Fu debate? Well, what, did you think I was going to go through the entire thing looking like a ragamuffin? Never forget the golden rule in any Shaq-related media. Perception is key. So, should Shaq-Fu be destined to be heralded as one of the worst games of all time? You probably already know where I stand, but for what it's worth, the hate on this game has significantly dropped over the years. However, the stigma is still around. So the question is, should it continue to be reviled and hidden in the shadows of the abyss? All I can really say on that is, guys, the 90s were almost 2 decades ago. Give it another shot. And on one last side note, I did get significantly better at the game while I was drinking, so if anything, you can play this when you're drinking with some friends. It'll make it a lot better. So, now that I've played Shaq-Fu and beaten Shaq-Fu and everything's good to go there, probably going to go back to like an obscure title next week, because really, I mean, who wants to play a bad game? Because...
Yo, that's the dude who made fun of me.
No. I wasn't meaning to actually look at you in a negative representation of a Caucasian person. It was just a joke I was using for my review of Shaq-Fu.
You actually like that game?
Well, yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay, well here's a game I think you'll enjoy.
And that's why people, you don't make fun of individuals as a joke. How the hell did I get ketchup on my face? Groovy.